What is going on, everybody? And in this video, we're providing you a state of the market and stock picks for November 1st, 2022. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, consider subscribing, as we do provide daily and weekly updates to get you prepared for the day and the week ahead in this glorious market. Yes, it is quite glorious. So the big pivotal event that is happening this week is your rates, your monetary policy that comes out at 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday is going to be a very pivotal and essentially set the tone for the rest of this year. We have to understand that we haven't had a core yet. The core inflation isn't coming out till next week. But the monetary policy is what's important. People are thinking the Fed is actually going to pivot, so much so that the market has taken quite the rip over the past couple of days because of that. Now, this is what's a lot of people still haven't changed their tone. A lot of people are asking the Fed to dial back, but they've done that before, and the Fed continued to look the other way. Their battles against inflation, they do not care what happens with the rest of the world. They have to make sure inflation is handled properly, or else it can run away and you're not going to be able to do anything about it, essentially, at that point. So what we're trying to do here is keep a tight lid on the current situation. And so we are expecting roughly around another 75-point basis move. I don't see anything different. If for some reason we do dial back, I think it's very premature to dial back at this point. I think the market needs to continue to hammer at least another 75, maybe in the next one, but we have to see how the next core is. This is why core is so important, to see how much it's actually coming down, because if it's barely budging inflation, that is going to be a big problem. But we have to also understand that when these rate increases come out, that the effect it has for it is very delayed, and we're seeing that devastate some of these big, great companies right now. And another 75-point basis move is definitely not going to help. It's definitely going to show in Q4 earnings coming up, and a lot of expectations for Q4 are not great. But with that being said, this week we do have earnings. Earnings is still going on. With everything else going on, we do have BP and we have Uber in the morning. After hours, you have AMD and Airbnb, which are very good ones, typically to play continuations on. Trying to get some insight into chips is going to be very important moving forward. Again, there's been a lot of bad data going out there about chips. So just be mindful of that. AMD earnings come out, it's going to affect all the rest of chips too, so be mindful of that. Wednesday, we have Roku and Qualcomm. I like Qualcomm a lot. They normally do really well. So that's one of the continuations I do want to play this week. We also have Coinbase, PayPal, and Block on Thursday after close. And on open, we do have Moderna Thursday morning. We have also Fubu and DraftKings on Friday. So there's a very busy week for earnings. There's still tons more. Those are just some of the major ones I'm watching going forward this week. So as far as, again, state of the markets, we are really watching. It's a very, very pivotal on what happens again tomorrow, or not tomorrow, but on Wednesday. That's what matters. That's going to be our pivotal event. Actually, wouldn't be surprised if we continue to chop around this range. You can't really see it on the daily, but the range is very tight. We're continuing to chop around essentially this 38.95 down roughly to around that 38.64. So we're chopping around there. I would expect really no different unless some new news comes out. I think could potentially sell us off a little bit. But again, very pivotal. People think this is going to pivot. If we do pivot, we could blast pretty high, I think, from that point. I think we could at least attempt to push back up to the 4K mark. It's a strong possibility, if not a little bit more than that. So again, you got some really heavy resistance, but that doesn't mean things are better. We have to understand that, and that's what's going to kind of cap whatever move does happen. But it would be a big sediment if that did happen. I just don't think this one is going to be it. I think we need another core to really determine if it will be it. And sadly enough, we won't get that next core until next week. So we're in December. We'll have the core before the next, before we close out the year, before we have the last monetary policy. So set up a little bit better for December as opposed to right now. So with that being said, technical wise, again, I think we're going to chop tomorrow. And then again, whatever comes at that port at 2 o'clock, we might get some movement before then. The market has been moving a little bit before then. I don't know if there's any kind of rumors or stuff going around that helps the market. We have seen rumors where it's made the market explode, and then whatever comes out is completely the opposite of what they thought, and the market just tanked. So just be mindful of that as well. So kind of watching tomorrow. Again, if we break below this 38.67, you're looking at the 38.36. And if we break that, 3,800. And if you break that, and you got a pretty big gap there to drop after that. The dollar, again, the dollar's starting to show strength again. It's building up very well for another strong push up. So you have to be mindful of that. Again, if the dollar can break back above essentially the 112, this thing's going back to another new high on this run. And if that happens, that means the market's going to pull back even more. So just be mindful of that. It's kind of what I'm watching there on the dollar. Bitcoin, again, holding around the 20. Bitcoin, again, really depends on what's going on with the market. So if we're waiting on Wednesday to see what happens with Bitcoin, kind of determine where that's going. Tesla, again, there's a lot of consolidation, essentially roughly around this 230 down to 200. So it roughly bouncing around here. I think it's kind of a good consolidation as long as the market doesn't really sell. Even that 200 is pretty strong support. If it does come back down 200, I will be grabbing it there, but we'll see what happens there. Airbnb, again, I want to watch this on Wednesday night. Wednesday sold off pretty heavy, actually. Tomorrow evening, this is going to report. So really watching this closely to see what happens with that. I do really like Airbnb as far as a value stock, but we'll have to see. Snow, another really big one I do like. I like the fact it's consolidating. I think this thing will have a nice pop up to at least 175, if not more. I do have small position in this as well. So watching that. BA again consolidating just like the market in general. Not really doing a lot, I think, until Wednesday. I'm kind of shooting through these really quick because, again, what's really going to matter is what happens on Wednesday. And then you can be judged based off what's going on after that. Typically, you want to talk about a year ago, you can call out whatever was basing and it would pump, and it would be call outs are much easier. Now it's much harder. That's why I only go to the same tickers over and over to kind of gauge where the industries are and then go from that point. Again, banks, they're barely holding in there. They had this monster move. They need to pull back really bad. So I'm seeing some day here soon, some really good pullback, and then it really just depends on what happens. I think 75-point basis move on Wednesday. Again, this isn't given, but I think my opinion would be a 75-point basis move enough to pull the banks back down. Roughly around here to the 118, and I think the core next week will determine if that's a higher low and we continue up, or if we're going to start selling back off again. I think what will lead into next week, but we'll have to see how that plays out. Goldman Sachs, again, monster move, no pullbacks. This thing really needs a pullback. Kind of expecting Wednesday potentially give us that. Again, same with BA. They all look the same right now. But that's pretty much what I got. It's short, sweet, and easy. I don't want to make this video too long. Again, we're waiting on Wednesday. Once we get the core, or once we get the monetary policy to determine are we coming in at 75-point basis moves. Again, there's a lot of hopium that the Fed are going to start quantitative easing and dialing back on the rates. A lot of people have been reaching out to the Fed. Again, in my opinion, the Fed doesn't care. The Fed cares about what's going on with inflation and making sure it doesn't run away, and at whatever cost that may be. And so I don't think right now is not enough to just be dialing back. I think they're still going to kick this can down the road at least a couple more times before they start dialing back. can consider it. So with that being said, remember to drop a like button. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.